So I'm David Peacock for the University of Hertfordshire. I'm the Content and Collections Manager. I'm just going to spend 5 minutes explaining why we decided to use the RapidILL service at Hertfordshire, the sort of the background to it, why we felt it was important that we needed to integrate it better with Koha. And finally, we've only been using it since the beginning of September, but sort of 3 months, but we've already sort of had some interesting results. So I'm just going to briefly talk to you about what's happened since we've started to go live with the RapidILL and the integration with Koha. Okay, so why RapidILL? Well, in the first lockdown, March 2020, the British Library stopped, obviously, apart from sort of urgent medical resources, stopped doing document delivery. And we got an email in our sort of inboxes saying, try this trial RapidILL service. So we decided we'd give it a go, not thinking it would be, sort of we would use it, but as a trial, we thought we might get the odd 1 or 2 articles that we couldn't provide any other way. So we decided to use it, we trialed it, and we trialed it for about 3 or 4 months during the first lockdown. And we found our interlibrary loans team sort of came back, or person, we haven't really got a team, person came back and said, it's really easy to use. And actually it's saving us a lot of time compared with the British Library, because often the British Library hasn't got resource and we have to go off and find it from other libraries. So actually we were getting a really good success rate. So over the period that we used it in the first lockdown, over 3 months, we found it was very speedy delivery. We were getting most of our interlibrary loans, our requests back within 24 hours turnaround. And in practice, it's more like a 12-hour turnaround because RapidILL is international in scope. So with the time zone awareness, we were getting people from Australia providing our sort of things by the morning, so that was really good. And there's potential there. A lot of HE universities are now using it as well. And there's a larger sort of UK pod, which didn't have in the first trial. We found that our fulfillment rates were really high. RapidILL, I would say it's a 90% success rate. And in the first lockdown, it was 92. And again, it's about 95 at the moment for us. So that's higher than the British Library. So that means that we spend less time looking at wider services and communications going off to individual libraries. The 90% are fulfilled sort of straight away in the first go, which is really, really good. In addition, it gave us the opportunity for a new workflow. We always wanted to do unmediated interlibrary loan requests. And that was with the British Library. If you searched the British Library API and you found it, you could request it automatically. And the library service, the library team didn't get involved in that. So that's what we wanted to continue with the unmediated requests. And we saw an opportunity for RapidILL to continue that because it gave instant verification and availability of the source. And then this user could potentially place the resource straight away. They couldn't in the first wave because we didn't have that integrated in with Koha, but that was certainly a possibility that we saw was possible. Another really useful, interesting part about this sort of brokering service is there's a flat fee, an annual flat fee, and no matter how much you use it, it's a one-off fee. So we always were in a difficult position with interlibrary loans. We wanted to offer interlibrary loans to everybody within the university, free of charge, unmediated largely. But we had a problem that really, if we promoted to everyone, it would be incredibly expensive. But this actually allows us to market to everyone now because because no matter how much you use it, there is a flat fee. So it's actually more cost effective and value for money if we use it a lot more and if we promote it a lot more and make it available in other places and things like that. The only downside of that, which is worth mentioning, is it's a reciprocal basis. So the amount of interlibrary loans that we request, we have to fulfill and borrow back to the community. So that does mean, but the borrowing back to the community is quite a straightforward thing. We haven't done any scanning of print products. We just use our electronic resources. So it's a case of quickly finding a PDF and loading it back up to the platform. So the fulfilling our requests lending requests to the community is quite a straightforward process, but it still is an additional workflow. So that is worth bearing that in mind. The other thing we found was it's very easy to obtain book chapters, and you can request those much easier than the British Library, which is always a bit of an issue and quite difficult to do. So we saw it as a very good service, but we also saw there's a great potential to integrate it with Koha and the RapidILL integration. And that would improve both the workflow and for the staff and improve productivity. And if we did increase, we could probably do it within existing sort of staff numbers because it improved productivity. And the second thing was we thought it would improve the usability from the user actually requesting the article we thought we could improve that workflow. So why we decided we would ask commission PTFS Europe to undertake some work to integrate RapidILL with Koha integration was until we had that work, staff would have to cut and paste from the RapidILL from the Koha form into RapidILL, and obviously that's quite a manual process, which we did during the first lockdown. But obviously it's something that would the user could fulfill the request, and then it would go straight through without any manual intervention, and cutting and pasting would obviously be an important process. And also because of that, all requests had to be mediated. And again, we wanted to go back to unmediated. And if the user found the item within RapidILL, they could potentially place the request automatically, and that wasn't handled by our staff, interlibrary loan staff. So we wanted that to be seamless and to reduce the workload for our staff. And we also found that users using the way we used to work, searching the British Library database was limited because of the quality of the British Library database and the API that they used. For example, there wasn't any feature there to post in the DOI, and then it could autofill and auto completion and that sort of thing. So we felt there was a chance to improve the workflow and the user-friendly, the usability of the interlibrary loan service for our end user, and make it much more seamless and a nicer process. So we did all this, and PTFS did all the work that Andrew's going to explain in just a second. And that came into place in September. And just very quickly, some of these graphics that I cut and pasted from our Tableau dashboard that my colleague Stephen Graham has produced. Since September, almost 80% of our interlibrary loans go through Rapid. 21% still goes for the British Library. Those are mostly books. We don't lend books. And if you can see the screen there, we produce about 73% of articles and about 26% of books. The other screen here is where we do the auto-fulfillment, and where we where users can now place interlibrary loans through the autofill. And we found that PubMed is by far the biggest user. So our users search PubMed, and then they have an opportunity, the books that we don't subscribe to or don't access, they can request that, and it's auto-filled and sent straight through normally. Just a quick indication of the first 3 months, September to November. So there is a big increase in interlibrary loan requests. In November, there was a 111% increase in interlibrary loans placed compared with 2019, which was the last sort of proper pre-pandemic year. So a big increase, and that's after many, many years of decreasing interlibrary loans. So the fact that it is a lot easier has meant that we have placed a lot, our users have placed a lot more interlibrary loans with us. So that's all I wanted to show you. So I shall now stop sharing my screen and pass you over to Andrew, who can go into all the detail of the work that PTFS Europe undertook for us.
Great, thanks so much, David. That's fantastic. I mean, that last slide was particularly interesting with those statistics on. That's really interesting. And there was a question, I think Fiona's already answered it, from Patricia about mediated versus unmediated. Yes, you can certainly choose whether requests are mediated or not. I guess one of the benefits of that RapidILL is if you've got enough metadata, it can actually fulfill the request without any staff intervention. So that is sort of one of the benefits of that particular service.
Yeah, it basically.
So we'll move on now to Andrew
ISSN.
Isherwood, our senior software engineer. He's prepared a little video to just explain in a little bit more detail what David was just talking about and the work that we did for University of Hertfordshire. So hopefully you'll find this interesting.
Okay, so here we are in the OPAC, and we're going to imagine we're a user who wants to place an interlibrary loan request. So we go into your account, interlibrary loan requests as normal, and then we create a RapidILL request. So we're presented with a form, and RapidILL provides 3 different material types to choose from. There's article, book, and book chapter. And obviously the fields that are presented will vary according to the material type that's chosen. So we'll try article, and I'll just grab some metadata from over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to supply the metadata we have, which is an article title. We also have the ISSN, and we have the year of publication. So all I have to do is then choose a library and click make a request. What that will then do is create a request within Koha, and it'll also contact RapidILL to try and place a request with them. So we can see that it's saying the item was requested, and if we look at the metadata, we can see that we've got the metadata we entered, but we've also got a RapidILL identifier, and that's come back from RapidILL, and that's the unique identifier for this request. So what happens if a user wants to place a request for an item but doesn't actually know that the item's already available locally? Well, RapidILL knows about your local holdings, so it can tell the user that the item's already available. So let's take a look at that. So if we go into RapidILL again, journal article again, we'll enter the ISSN. We'll also enter the article title and the year of publication. Once the user's filled in sufficient metadata for RapidILL to make a query to see if an item's available locally, it will do. And we can see that's happened here. So it's queried RapidILL, it's come back, and it's now saying that this item can't be requested because it's already available locally. So at that point, the user can then just click on the link here and be taken directly to the local holding for that item. Now, it's sometimes the case that when a user's placing a request, they don't have very much metadata, but the RapidILL integration with Koha allows staff members to jump in and complete any missing metadata prior to the request being created. So let's take a look at that. So if a user came along and entered some metadata, so we'll enter an article title and we'll enter an ISSN. Choose a library and make the request. So that's actually created a local request, and it's tried to create a request with RapidILL. That will have failed, but as far as the user's concerned, they've done as much as they can do. They've placed the request with the metadata that they had. So they can see that the status here is new request. And if they look in the request, they can see that the metadata is here. So it's now down to the staff member to identify that the request has been placed, that the request failed, and to remedy whatever the problem is. So let's look in the staff interface to see how that looks. So if we go into ILL requests, so here's the request that the user created. We can see that its status is new request. And if we look over in the staff notes here, we can see that an error came back from RapidILL saying that year or volume must be specified for the request to succeed. So at this point, the staff member can go into the request. They can edit the item metadata. They can fill in the year of publication, which is one of the missing fields. They can update the metadata, and then they can try and place the request again with RapidILL. And we can see that that's actually succeeded now. The status is requested, and we've got a RapidILL identifier. If we look in the request log, we can see that the status has changed from new request to requested, and that the RapidILL request succeeded. So that's how, if a user is entering information that's incomplete, a staff member can come along, complete the missing information, and then place the request. On the staff side of things, we try and do as much as we can to help the staff member fill in the form to ensure that their RapidILL request will be successful. So let's take a quick look at that. So if we create a request on the staff interface, we can see we're immediately told what information we need to fill in for the material type that's been selected. Obviously that will change according to the material type. So for journal article, we need to fill in these fields. So if I start doing that, we can see that the hints at the bottom are changing as we fill in the information. And then once I've filled in sufficient information for Koha to contact RapidILL and see whether a request will succeed, it'll do so. I've filled that into the wrong field. There we go. So what it does now is it contacts RapidILL, and when it comes back, it will say whether this request will succeed or not. So we can see that now it's saying the item's available for request. So I have confidence that when I click make request, that request will succeed. If an error has been made while filling in the form, say for example I'd mistyped this ISSN, RapidILL is contacted and will come back and explain why the request will fail, and in this case it's because the ISSN is invalid. We saw in the OPAC side of things how if a request is for an item that is already available, that request will not succeed because the item can't be requested, and that happens in the staff side of things too. So if I just fill that in now, we can see that once again RapidILL is being contacted and we're being told that the item is locally available. So all the way through we're trying to help the user, we're trying to maximize the chances of the request metadata being supplied correctly and sufficient metadata being supplied for a request to succeed. Finally, we'll take a quick look at the RapidILL request log that we pull into Koha as part of the integration. So if I go to ILL requests and then manage a request that's been placed, we can see down at the bottom that we're seeing a live view of the request log that's come from RapidILL that gives us the current status with them. So we can see here that the request is pending. It gives the details of the branch name of the library that the item is coming from, and that's always been updated. So whenever you view a request within Koha, you're always seeing the latest status.